What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into Talkin Grizz, our offseason edition. We are talking drafts and prospects, and joining us for our mock draft now, representing the Indiana Pacers, is Scott Agness, Pacers reporter for Fieldhouse Files. How's it going today, Mr. Agness?
It's going well. Looking forward to the draft here in less than a week.
Yeah, it's creeping up on us, which is exciting, but it means that we are just around the corner, and that also means that we're going to have a lot more to talk about in this upcoming week, which I know that we'll be happy about instead of just these what ifs.
Right.
But let's talk about the what ifs first. The Pacers. I want you to start off by telling me, if you were the GM of the Pacers, and let's say you didn't have like specific names written down, you were just like, this is what I need to fit into this puzzle piece. What makes the Pacers better next year?
First of all, they had the huge change with the coaching staff. So I think they're going to be better, number one, because of that. That's a whole podcast or something in itself. But looking forward to the draft, what they really need is that 3-and-D type guy, the most desired position really in the league, because they had it with Paul George years ago. That's basically what they would love to get after right now. They were terrible defensively, and a lot of that was schematics and how they played under a new now old coaching staff this past year. But now some coaching changes will help correct that a little bit, but they could really use some length on defense and then more shooting, much like every other team.
3-and-D type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now let's talk about personnel. Now we've taken off the blinders and you can see these guys. Is there a 3-and-D type of guy in possibly that 13th spot that the Pacers could look at? And I will say before you answer, sorry to cut you off before I even let you talk. 13, I feel like a lot of people look at it and they're like, okay, you're not going to get the top guy. You're not going to get the top 4 guys, but let us remind everyone at home that 13 has drafted some really great players, including one of the greats, Kobe Bryant, Moses Malone. Like 13 is a spot where you can get someone who is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Donovan Mitchell, was there. There's been a lot over these last 4 or 5 years in particular that have been really outstanding picks. And really, that's what the Pacers need at this point, because they're never in this position. This will be just their second time in 11 years where they're drafting inside the lottery, because they're always good enough, never great, and never horrible. They're on a streak where they've reached the playoffs. Outside of this year, it was 25 of the last 32 years. So again, always good enough. But that takes you kind of out of the lottery considerations. The challenge, though, I will say, is there's a lot of needs, and maybe so they've brought in so far 7 different workouts, 38 total guys. I appreciate at least they're one of those groups that announce their players, make them available, that type of thing. I do appreciate that. But with that, there's a big cluster of guys that I think they would be happy with anywhere from 13 to 20. So it would be interesting to see if someone wants to move up to this 13 spot, if the Pacers could tack on another first-round pick later, first round or next year's first, and in doing so, still get a guy from that range that they're seeking.
Is there a guy that you think would be the perfect fit?
I don't know about perfect, but one of my favorites so far has been Chris Duarte. He was in here this past week. He had a really impressive group as well. Zaire Williams was a part of that. Corey Kispert of Gonzaga was part of that. So with Kispert and Duarte, you have 2 of the older guys in that top tier, right? That played 4 years, that have gone through it. But you look at, guys across the league like a Devin Booker, those guys are right along that same age range, and they've been in the league 2, 3, 4 years. So that would be the one negative I think about them. But for me, one guy that I continue to hear a lot about, both Pacers and throughout the league, is Chris Duarte. So there's a lot of intriguing things about him and what he's able to do defensively. He would immediately be help there. He'd be an excellent shooter, and this team could really use more of that, especially considering we don't know what's going to happen in free agency. And their best shooter, Doug McDermott, is a free agent. They'd like to bring him back, but he's going to probably have a real possibility here to potentially double his annual salary.
I got to be honest with you. I would take the double salary if it was me. That's not what we're talking about now. So I am going to put you on the clock. Scott, I feel like I know who you're going to pick, but I'm going to put up the graphic for everyone at home so you can see who is already off the board. Unfortunately, we've got 12 people ahead who have chosen who they think will fit best. So now with the number 13th pick representing the Indiana Pacers, Scott Agness drafts.
I would take Chris Duarte from Oregon. Guy's one of the best wings, I think, out there. A guy who's proven a lot through his workouts. People are becoming more and more appreciative of his game and looking forward to what he's able to add. Again, the obvious knock is that he's already 24, but with the Pacers, they're continuing to be in rebuild they're always trying to stay in winning mode. They're not trying to rebuild at all. And now bringing in Rick Carlisle, he's not going to want to rebuild either. So ideally, you'd much rather see them take a guy like him rather than say Zaire Williams, who's going to need probably 2-3 years to make an impact. They want more ready-made. You get help on the wing. You get help on defense. Combine that with an entire new coaching staff, and they'll make the playoffs next season.
Do you picture him, if he was to be drafted in this 13th spot, do you picture him being a starting five from the start of the season?
If they don't make any significant changes in free agency, which I think is a very real possibility that they do, especially with that center spot, if they don't make changes, then no, I wouldn't, because I'm not playing him over Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, TJ Warren, and those are your 1, 2, 3 in the lineup. And that's fine. If he could come off, be your sixth, maybe seventh man, maybe the Pacers move Jeremy Lamb, who's your sixth man right now. You have options. He's younger and would give them fresh legs and a real shooting threat that they have needed for years.
All right. Well, all right. We got the draft coming up. We said like this week. We have free agency coming up as well. So there's going to be a lot of balls in the air, especially for this Indiana team. So I appreciate you. I am looking forward to your coverage of both of these things. I feel like you're going to have a lot to work with over the next few weeks. So thank you so much for your analysis. And Grizzlies fans, we are less than a week away from the draft, and we will see you then. You can always get more on grindcitymedia.com.